Welcome to my channel. Try to hear the latest story.
After discovering my girlfriend's phone unlocked, I found out she and her friends had a group conversation evaluating their partners. I ranked at the bottom in every section, and they exchanged private pictures ridiculing my physique. When I challenged her, she simply chuckled and remarked, "You ought to be thankful I even bother with you." I stayed silent. 3 weeks on, she appeared at my entrance. "Please, darling, I'm pleading with you." Never imagined I'd become one of those men sharing tales of retribution. Yet here I am. Still hard to fathom how swiftly 4 years of my existence vanished in smoke, or how insignificant they truly were to her. I'm 32, managing my own cybersecurity business. Amber was 29, employed in promotions at a clothing firm. We encountered each other at a pal's nuptials, connected right away. Intelligent, stunning, far beyond my reach. At least that's what I believed back then. It seems she felt the same. 3 weeks prior, Amber forgot her device on the living room table during her bath. It was open. Not that I was prying, but a group message alert appeared that grabbed my attention. Partner evaluations refreshed with a giggling icon. An instinct urged me to check. Call it hunch or self-defense, but I'm relieved I did. The discussion group was named Partner Assessment Panel with Amber and 7 of her companions. Ladies I'd encountered, dined with, even traveled alongside. Ladies who grinned in my presence while evidently mocking me privately for ages. They maintained a comprehensive document scoring their partners across various areas. Earnings, physique, bedroom skills, long-term prospects, societal standing. Each area featured ratings and in-depth remarks. I browsed through, feeling nauseous as I saw I was at the very end in all areas. But the remarks, those were what shattered something within me. At least he earns okay cash. But heavens, those slender limbs. I always shut my eyes and picture Chris Hemsworth. How do you avoid giggling when he strips? Share another image of his scrawny legs. And there they were. Confidential snapshots of me undressing post-shower, resting, putting on clothes, images I was unaware of. Snapshots Amber had captured covertly and distributed to her pals. My form, my most personal instances, analyzed and derided by women who dined at my home. The harshest aspect? Amber had authored the majority of the meanest statements. He believes I'll wed him. Could you picture being tied to that averageness eternally? But his firm's worth is increasing, so I'm biding time for the ideal instant. I captured screens of all of it, then replaced her device precisely where it had been. When she emerged from the bath, I behaved ordinarily. Totally ordinarily. Inquired about supper arrangements, talked about weekend possibilities. Internally, I was already departed. The following day, I nonchalantly referenced something regarding her pals' group discussion. Her gaze sharpened. "Did you rummage through my device?" I noticed the alert. "Fascinating evaluation method you all use. It's merely a silly pastime. Why are you turning this into something major?" "I'm not turning it into anything, just wondering why I'm placed last in each section." She sighed dramatically. "Oh Lord, it's only for amusement. Everybody overstates for chuckles. Even the hidden images of me bear. Those for amusement as well?" Her demeanor shifted, from protective to belittling in moments. "Don't be so touchy. Men exchange far worse about females constantly. I don't. Well, aren't you just flawless then?" She folded her arms. "Listen, if you can't manage a minor jest, perhaps that confirms my view on your placement. So 4 years as a couple and I'm merely a jest to you?" She chuckled then, a chilly tone I'd never heard from her previously. "You ought to be thankful I even bother with you. Do you realize how many men would die to date me?" I didn't reply, didn't shout, didn't grant her the pleasure of witnessing my pain. Just gazed at her for an extended moment, then exited the space. That evening I rested in the spare bedroom. The next morning I contacted my attorney, my financial advisor, and my company associate. I had tasks to complete. See, what Amber failed to grasp about being with a cybersecurity expert is that I comprehend how frameworks operate, including interpersonal ones. I know weaknesses, entry points, and how to implement a smooth departure plan. And I had exactly the strategy. First, the functional issues. We weren't wedded, but we'd resided in my apartment for 3 years. Amber had never contributed to the loan, but had discussed adding her name to the title for fiscal reasons. Fortunately, I'd always postponed. I reached out to my building supervisor and organized for the locks to be replaced the next week, when Amber would be at her firm's 3-day promotion seminar. Then, I systematically started disentangling our online existences, revoking her entry to my profiles, memberships, and reserve cloud space. Most crucially, I protected my business information. Amber had sometimes assisted with certain promotional items and had entry to some minor systems. All of that needed to be eliminated. The individual matters were more complex. For years as partners means entangled existences, images, recollections, shared acquaintances. I didn't desire any of it any longer. But I also avoided a theatrical confrontation, so I devised a managed dismantling instead. For the subsequent week, I was the ideal partner. Considerate, caring, standard. Meanwhile, I discreetly transferred my vital papers and unique possessions to my workplace, rerouted my correspondence, readied a fresh location to reside briefly. The day Amber departed for her seminar, I aided her in packing, embraced her farewell, and then carried out everything in order. First, I relocated what was important to me, roughly 20% of the apartment's items. The remainder, the furnishings we'd selected jointly, the artwork, the cooking tools she adored, I left as is. Physical objects can be substituted. My self-worth couldn't. Then I had the lock swapped, the alarm system reprogrammed, and her key fob disabled. Lawfully valid since the asset was exclusively in my name, and she had no lease contract or ownership right. Next was the online detachment. I didn't simply restrict her, that would be too evident. Instead, I established redirection protocols and screens. Her communications would seem sent, but would really route to a distinct directory I'd never need to view. Her calls would sound, but divert immediately to messages. To her, it would appear as if I was merely disregarding her. In truth, I would never even realize she was attempting to contact me. The third phase was the interpersonal barrier. I didn't denounce her openly, that's novice level. Instead, I dispatched personal notes to 10 shared friends I genuinely valued, attached captures of what she'd stated about me, about them, yes, her companions evaluated them as well, and about their spouses. No explanation required. Just proof. For my professional connections, I issued short formal memos stating that Amber and I had separated and to channel any interactions to my authorized paths only. Then I registered at a luxury inn on the other side of the city, requested in-room dining, and slumbered more soundly than I had in ages. Amber's seminar concluded ahead of schedule on the third day. I know because the surveillance devices I'd set up at the apartment, which she was unaware of, notified me when she attempted entry. I observed from afar as she found her key failed, her passcode was denied, and her growing distress as she comprehended the situation. The initial message arrived at 8:42 p.m. What on earth? My key fails. Are you for real? Respond to me. I didn't naturally. Didn't even notice them until far later, when I examined that screen directory. A week on, she messaged me a document of her alleged inputs to our home costs over 3 years, insisting on her equitable portion of the combined acquisitions we'd done. I didn't reply, never accessed the file. That cash was the least expensive cost I could incur to discover her true nature. Her companions began messaging next. The faithful advocates dispatched to induce remorse in me. They received the identical online void handling. By the second day, she was at my workplace. My employees had been informed. Courteous, businesslike, but zero entry and zero details on my location. The monitoring video displayed her yelling at my aide, insisting to learn where I was. My aide Kate managed it superbly, composed, impassive, and with guards on quick call. By the conclusion of the first week, the interpersonal collapse was total. Those captures had circulated through our social network. Amber's companions had betrayed one another, realizing they'd all been targets of ridicule too. Their small evaluation society had turned into reciprocal guaranteed ruin. It was in the second week that Amber's promotions company underwent a sudden security review. Nothing linked to me formally. But when reviewers uncover a worker has been utilizing firm servers to keep and distribute unapproved explicit pictures, there are procedures that must be adhered to. Job ended. Legal department informed. Personal belongings mailed to her siblings' location, where she'd been residing since discovering herself barred from my apartment. By week 3, Amber was basically without a home, staying temporarily with her sibling, unemployed, and socially isolated. Not one shared contact would engage with her predicament. The ideal partner she'd ridiculed had vanished, leaving solely devastated ground in his wake. That's when she arrived at my inn, still unaware how she located me. Likely paid off someone at my workplace. She was lingering in the foyer when I came back from a work supper. Please, she wept, cosmetics running down her cheeks. Please, I'm pleading with you. Just converse with me. I proceeded past her to the lift. I forfeited my position. I have no place to reside. My siblings evicting me. The lift doors parted. I entered. You can't simply discard 4 years. I committed one error. As the doors started to seal, I ultimately uttered. Actually, it was 137 communications over 2 years. I tallied. The doors closed on her stunned expression. That evening, she messaged me, somehow bypassing my screens, with a frantic suggestion. She'd endorse a confidentiality pact, never reach out again, if I'd merely assist her with 1 month's lease on a fresh spot. I had my attorney reply with a solitary file, a full log of the explicit images she'd captured without approval and disseminated without consent, along with the pertinent laws concerning privacy violation and unauthorized intimate image sharing. Except in this instance, she was the offender and I was the injured party. No intimidations, just realities. Never received word from her since. It's been 2 months currently. I'm back in my apartment, which I've entirely refurbished. My firm secured 2 significant deals, partially because customers value collaborating with someone who manages security violations firmly and privately. I've begun seeing people again carefully. Turns out when you elevate your criteria and appreciate yourself, you draw individuals who do likewise. My fresh guideline is straightforward. I don't tolerate anything below reciprocal regard. As for Amber, I learned she relocated back to her original town. Occasionally folks inquire if I overdid it. Possibly. But I like to view it as an equivalent reaction. She devoted years covertly assessing me, deeming me insufficient, and eroding my honor. All I did was demonstrate to her exactly how much she'd misjudged me. Update. Wow, this exploded overnight. Appreciate all the honors and encouragement. To address the most frequent inquiries. 1. Yes, I still possess all the proof safely kept, including the images she captured without permission. No, I didn't initiate court proceedings, though I readily could have. Why? Because judicial processes would entail engaging with her, debating her, contemplating her. Legal matters extend for months or years. I didn't want her occupying any additional room in my existence. The file from my attorney achieved its goal, illustrating to her precisely how doomed she'd be if I opted to pursue that path. I selected the neater choice. Total removal from my life. 3. Multiple individuals asked if I regretted her job loss. Not at all. Her firm had rigid rules about employing work servers for private material. She breached those rules to store and share explicit images taken without approval. Her decisions. Her outcomes. 4. For those suggesting I should have challenged her straightforwardly. Why? She already revealed her true self, both in that group discussion and when she chuckled and said I ought to be thankful she bothered with me. Individuals who honor you don't require warnings or additional opportunities to grant you fundamental respect. 5. Regarding the apartment scenario. No, I never vacated forever. I briefly resided at an inn for the initial few weeks after altering the locks, then returned once I'd refurbished and erased all remnants of her. My short-term departure was tactical, not yielding my asset. 6. And to the person who labeled me ruthless. When someone reveals their true nature, accept it immediately. Being strategic isn't equivalent to being harsh. I didn't ruin her existence. I merely extracted myself from it entirely and allowed her to face the inherent repercussions of her behavior. Sometimes the finest retribution isn't causing someone pain. It's rendering them insignificant.